Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? It's a topic that content creators tend to shy away from, but I want to tackle it head on. Let's talk about how YouTubers make money. So this is a topic that I've actually wanted to cover for a while, could never really slot it in, never really had much of an opportunity to do so. But lately I've been getting feedback in various ways from various people through various formats, basically implying or suggesting that, one, I'm doing this full time, and two, that I must be making a decent amount of money at it. And as I've talked about kind of the behind the scenes of content creation before, I figured, you know what, let's just get this topic out of the way and cover it in the best of my ability. Obviously, you know, I'm relatively speaking still kind of early on in terms of a YouTube career, if you could even really call it a career. I mean, I've been doing this since 2014. But I'm definitely not doing this full time. I can't afford to do this channel full time. And there are a number of reasons for that, which hopefully will become very clear through the course of this video. Obviously, because I'm not doing this full time, I'm not making a ton of money off of it either. Now, there is a little unfortunate kind of caveat to this whole episode. You know, I like to be transparent with all of you. You know, I like to be very upfront with information in all of my reviews. I make it very clear, you know, when a manufacturer supplied a product versus when I bought it myself, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, this is one of those occasions where I can't yield too much detail simply because of contracts and agreements and that sort of thing. There's a lot of mixed information out there about whether YouTubers are allowed to talk specific numbers in terms of how much money they make, at least from the ad side of things. I've heard from some people that YouTube doesn't really care and you can get away with it. I've heard from some other people saying, don't even try. You know, YouTube will get mad at you and they may demonetize your channel and do some all this other stuff. I happen to remember that when I first got my channel monetized, part of the agreement was you don't talk about, you know, your ad revenue. You keep that to yourself. So I'm going to honor that portion of the agreement. However, I will try to kind of clue you in as best I can through the course of this one. So obviously there are multiple revenue streams that content creators, YouTubers can take. I'm talking about this from the YouTube specific perspective, although a lot of this also applies to other video platforms, things like Vimeo, and even some video related but not, you know, pre-produced content sorts of channels where they largely rely on live video like Twitch. A lot of this stuff applies to those as well. So this isn't just a YouTube specific video. But of course, the biggest generator of ad revenue, or at least the one that people think of the most, is going to be video or banner ads overlaid or run in the middle of the actual video content when you watch it. You may have watched a video ad before this episode played, or there may be a banner ad going across the bottom right now. I don't know. Part of the problem is I don't get to control exactly when that stuff happens. I can turn some of that stuff on and off. For example, if I remember correctly, I've got mid-roll ads turned off. So you shouldn't very frequently be getting interrupted in the middle of a video with like an actual video ad that plays to break it up. But I don't get to pick the content of the ad that runs. I don't get to pick exactly when it runs. I don't get to pick the videos it runs on. It's just kind of a, do you want to turn on or off these types of ads? You know, and then do you want them on for any of your videos at all? That's really all the more control I get. So, you know, for most YouTubers, that's going to be the bulk of the revenue, or at least the largest portion of the revenue that they think about or get worried about. It's paid out as something called CPM, or cost per mil. In this case, mil is the Latin word for thousand. So it's more or less a price that advertisers pay for every 1,000 times an ad runs, whether that's a video ad that plays or a banner ad that appears, something like that. Again, I'm not really allowed, as far as I know, to talk about specific CPM, cost per mil numbers, but I can tell you, because this is public information, that of that portion that an advertiser pays for their CPM, I don't get all of it. In fact, I get only slightly more than half. 55% of ad revenue goes to the content creator. YouTube itself keeps the rest of it, which sounds like a lot, and it kind of is, but at the same time, YouTube and Google aren't charities, they're businesses, and they grew to the size that they are by being smart businesses like that. So, it was part of the agreement going in, and if people didn't like that, well, they wouldn't, use YouTube. So I think it's a delicate balance, but it does seem to work. It used to be hard to get into what's called the YouTube Partnership Program, where you basically finally get allowed to make some of the money off of the ad revenue. It used to be this application process, and people would have to review your channel and your content, and it was a big deal when you'd get accepted. It would never be right away. It would never be you start a channel and upload one video and you apply and you get it. It would be months, if not years, before somebody would actually get accepted into a partnership program. Sometime in 2013, 2014, I can't remember exactly when, that changed and the bar was lowered dramatically. It didn't take me very long to get into the partnership program. In fact, I seem to remember I got in within the first, 6 months after starting the channel and getting content uploaded regularly. And I think that's generated some problems. In fact, YouTube, I think, has been tightening up those controls a little bit, making it a bit harder to get into the partnership program than it used to be. Simply because we've been seeing so much more content show up on YouTube. It's just been a dramatic increase year over year, but the amount of ad revenue hasn't really increased to match. You know what I mean? Like, advertisers, they've only got so much money they can spend on ads, so it just ends up getting spread around more. So if you hear from people complaining about, oh, this, my CPM keeps going down and blah, 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 that's why. It's because, it's a supply and demand type of a thing. There's an oversupply of video content. So now that demand is kind of swinging towards the advertiser side, they're able to pay less to run ads, simply because there's more opportunities to run them. I think part of what the misconception of YouTubers making a ton of money really comes from is by looking at some of the really big YouTube channels. PewDiePie is a great example of this. Based on some numbers that I've found, in 2016, he had 50 million subscribers. He has more than 50 million now, of course, but for comparison of numbers, in 2016, he had 50 million subscribers. And supposedly he made $15 million in 2016. So that's pretty simple math if you break it down. And you could say at the end of 2016, he was getting paid basically 30 cents per subscriber per year's worth of revenue. But here's where that math kind of breaks down. So as I'm filming this, I'm just about to break 60,000 subscribers, which is tiny compared to somebody like PewDiePie or even a lot of the other really, well-known YouTube channels. It's a huge number for me. And for a lot of YouTube channels, 60K is actually a huge number. I am incredibly thankful and grateful to all of you. So don't ever think that I'm not thankful for what I have. I totally am. But for comparison, if we take that 30 cents per sub number times 60,000 subscribers, I should be making $18,000 a year if I end 2017 with 60,000 subs, if my growth just stops here. I can tell you, again, without violating contracts or any of that, getting YouTube pissed off, I'm not going to make $18,000 off of YouTube this year. I'm probably not even going to make half that. I'm probably not even going to make a third of that. I can tell you at 60,000 subscribers with the view numbers that I have started to think about tax implications, for my personal income tax, federal, state at the end of the year. I have started to think about what's my plan for that. But is this going to replace a full-time job for me? No way. Not anywhere near that level yet. It's generally at the point where you've got to have several 100,000 subscribers where you can even think about it. But even then, the ad revenue is so intermittent, right? That's part of the problem. Is it's not a consistent paycheck every month. It's going to vary based on how much content you create and how popular videos become, and then also just how much ads are being run. I can tell you that ad revenue overall tends to go up towards the end of the year as we get into the holiday shopping season, because companies want to try and sell more stuff, so they're going to advertise. At the beginning of the year, and actually even kind of during the summer now, things are pretty quiet. So there's some variability there, and that can make YouTubers uneasy if they're trying to do this as their full-time job. You've got to save a lot of money and plan way far out in advance and not live so much paycheck to paycheck, because if you try to do that, you may not make enough money to pay your bills that month. So there's some other ways where kind of things get mixed up in people's heads. Coming back to the PewDiePie example, why am I not going to make as much based on that formula as he's supposedly making? Well, a lot of that is because he's so big, he actually qualifies for his own special treatment. The big YouTubers basically get enrolled in a different ad network where YouTube wants to work a little bit more hands-on with them to try and, feed them the best ads, the best fitting ads, and the highest paying ads. And because they're so big and they have so many views, they're going to kind of stack the deck and tend to get the lion's share of ad revenue. So that's generally why they're going to get better rates. They're just so big, they can demand it. Just like how all the really big name actors in Hollywood can get paid millions of dollars a year, if they just do one movie a year, that sort of thing. And whereas a lot of other actors, they may be excellent, but they're kind of struggling and they've got to take on a lot of roles in order to make it work. So that's kind of why the big YouTubers, I think, cause confusion about smaller channels, is because it's not a level playing field between the two. Part of what may simplify things in terms of that formula is YouTube Red. To cover that quickly, it's basically an ad-free subscription experience for YouTube. You pay $10 a month and you can watch all the YouTube you want, just like you can now, but you don't get any ads. In some cases, you also get original content, special shows created just for YouTube Red subscribers. There's no ads, so how do content creators get paid for that? Well, it's really just kind of a split of that YouTube Red revenue based on their views, the popularity of a video. I can tell you, for most creators, especially for me, it's not a huge portion of ad earnings or direct YouTube revenue. Does it count for something? Yeah, but it's a small number. We'll have to see where things go if YouTube Red actually takes off. It may become a bigger deal, and people may want to cater more towards YouTube Red viewers than the free viewers. We'll have to see. It's still a relatively young thing. So let's start to get into some stuff that can be a little bit more controversial from a fan or a viewer perspective. The first one is going to be sponsored content or just ads. A lot of people have very mixed opinions on these, and I don't blame them for that. Sponsored content is when a company or a manufacturer or supplier gets in touch with a creator directly and basically says, hey, would you make a video for us about this topic? We'll pay you X amount of money to do that. And you can either do those videos really well, where the content makes sense for your channel and it's relevant to what your viewers want to watch anyway, and it's a reputable brand or product, and you get enough creative freedom over the video where you don't have the company paying you dictating all the little bits and pieces and making you go back and re-edit stuff and all of that. and you disclose a video like that very obviously, very overtly, so that viewers know what's going on. If you can make all of that stuff work, then sponsored content can be successful, and it can basically keep from pissing your viewers off. However, there are a lot of YouTubers that don't do it correctly. The problem with not doing it correctly is, yeah, it's going to turn your viewers off because they're going to just think you're a shill. The other problem is you can actually get in trouble because, at least here in the US, there are rules about disclosing things in advertising, in content, when you get paid for stuff. It's one of the reasons why I talk in review videos. I mention when I was given a product by a manufacturer. In fact, in my review videos, I do it twice. I do it at the beginning, usually in the first sentence of the video after coming out of the intro, and then again at the end. I don't necessarily have to do it twice like that. I do that just because, again, I want to be transparent, but you have to disclose a relationship like that. And unfortunately, too many YouTubers don't know that they need to do that, or they don't care. And that's where things can get kind of weird, where suddenly, a YouTuber that you follow a lot may be talking about a completely different topic on a product that actually looks like it's kind of crap from a manufacturer you've never heard of. And they're really, really talking this thing up, and it feels weird and you're not quite sure why. That's sponsored content. Now, from the content creator side of it, that can be a very popular thing for them because it's a big chunk of cash, and you're probably going to make more off of a single sponsored video than you would off of the ad revenue on a video like that. So it's definitely an incentive for a content creator to make videos like that. It may help them be able to buy extra equipment or pay their bills that month or whatever, give them a little more financial security. But again, you just have to do it correctly. And I'm even still trying to make up my own mind whether I want to bother with sponsored videos. I can tell you, at the time I am filming this episode, I have not accepted money for any videos. I have not. I have received product to review, which is actually a standard thing in product reviews. I'll include a link up above to a previous podcast episode where I talked about how reviews on YouTube work, and my own personal take on all of that. But I've never accepted money to create a video for anybody. And I'm still trying to figure out if that's even something I want to contemplate doing. Another thing that is a bit more palatable, but still can be kind of controversial, is product sales. A good example there's a lot of DIYers that I watch on YouTube, people who create stuff. Whether it's like a physical thing like woodworking, or they create software, they create graphics or whatever. A lot of these people will then sell products. They'll sell the stuff they make. They'll sell project plans so you can make it yourself. Sometimes it's just general merchandise like t-shirts and stickers and all of that. In fact, I sell t-shirts. Include a link somewhere up here, down there, wherever. T-shirts if you want to buy one. But it's really just kind of a side revenue thing, I think, for a lot of YouTubers. I don't think it's going to be like their main source of revenue. And in fact, it can be a bit of a pain. My own t-shirt is just through a print-on-demand company called Redbubble. I went with them just because I'm happy with their product. I don't make a ton of money off of that either, so don't, again, think I'm getting rich. And in fact, to be perfectly honest and transparent, at the time I'm filming this, I haven't sold a single t-shirt. So it's really not a small, it's not a small amount of work if you're selling lots of tangible things and you have to have your own inventory, but it's also not a ton of money if you're not selling a ton of it, I guess. I probably could have worded that better, but it's not a large portion of any content creator's revenue, I don't think. Again, unless you get really big like PewDiePie and you've got this whole variety of merch and just tons of people who want to buy it. But product sales generally can work they can work well if it dovetails with the content nicely. But again, it's just a layer of work. It's a layer of time. You've got to manage a store now too. Affiliate links is another big thing. Pretty much everyone watching this, I imagine, is probably familiar with that, like an Amazon or B&H affiliate link. If you want to buy a product, you click the link that in a video. And it takes you to the site and you can buy the thing, and it's the same price as if you bought it by going to Amazon or whatever directly, but a very small portion, just a couple percent of commission goes back to the content creator. Again, I don't have any of that set up. I'm not sure if it's worth the effort. I don't think the sales would be there to really make it worth it. But if you're interested in that, maybe I can set up some sort of, I think Amazon lets you do these kind of pseudo storefronts where you can just like put up a whole bunch of products that you like and recommend and stuff. If you're interested in that, maybe I set one of those up and I put all the tools and supplies and stuff that I use for DIY projects. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I'm open to whichever way the general consensus says I should go. The final one, and maybe the most controversial, even more than sponsored content, is going to be crowdfunding. It's a relatively new thing. I mean, it's been around for a few years, but I'm talking crowdfunding in terms of things like Patreon, not so much like, Indiegogo or Kickstarter where you're selling a physical product. I'm talking crowdfunding in terms of just ongoing support, throw $1 or $2 or whatever a month at a content creator. It's very easy for us. I mean, we just set up a page and maybe we create an intro video and that's pretty much it. But it does have the possibility to turn some viewers off. And the biggest argument that I've heard against crowdfunding like that is that it's like you're begging for money. Well, and I've even heard some YouTubers dismiss crowdfunding, why they don't want to do it, because they feel it's like begging for money. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it all comes down to how you present it. In my case, I've always presented my Patreon page as just being like a tip jar. If you like the content and you want to help keep me going, you want to help, then, it's just like $1 or $2 a month or whatever. I don't have any gigantic high, numbers. I don't have a button you can click to give me $100 a month or anything like that. I know nobody would click it. I'm not going to insult people like that. Right now, the tiers I have are $1, $2, and $5. $1, $2, $5. My brain is turning to mush here. $1, yeah. And I'm actually surprised at how many people are in for $5. I'm really surprised at how many people are in for $5. So I'm very thankful to all of my Patreon supporters. Because it's totally voluntary, and that's really the way it should be. And I think some people present it like, you should feel compelled to support somebody like that. And that's just not the way I'm choosing to view it. To me, it's just a tip jar. But as ad revenues have declined, content creators have been relying on crowdfunding more and more. And I think it can work really well because it does give you better connection with your viewers in that, they can see exactly how much you're making. I do have that figure publicly available on Patreon. Right now, it's something like $70 a month people are committed to. There's no rules against publishing that. And I've intentionally got that turned on. So you can go see that at any time. So, you can kind of connect with your fans, your viewers a bit better that way. There's opportunities to give them some extra thank yous. For example, a lot of times people ask me, hey, is this podcast available on iTunes or Google Play or SoundCloud or whatever, all these various platforms. I prefer to publish it on YouTube because it helps keep the channel moving that way. Plus, we get the comments section down below so people can keep chatting. But I can tell you, if you want an audio-only version, consider supporting me on Patreon because I make an MP3 format version of this podcast available just for patrons. And not only is it available for patrons, it's available early. They get it a few days before this goes live on YouTube. And I think that's the kind of reward that can work really well. It's not turning your audience into haves and have-nots. I don't want to upload tons of exclusive content just for the patrons so that, the people who can't necessarily afford to become a patron get left out. Not that at all. If you get the MP3 by being a patron of this podcast, you're getting the same content. You're just getting it in maybe a format that's more convenient for you, or you're getting it early, and some people really like that. But I do think that crowdfunding, really is going to be kind of the future for content creators, at least in terms of filling in the gaps where ad revenue starts to taper off. Maybe the quieter months, that sort of thing. I think it just needs to be approached correctly and not seen so much as begging for money as it is just, like I said before, as a tip jar. You know, if viewers want to maybe get the value adds of early access to videos or the occasional exclusive content if the creator's into that, or just maybe better communication with the content creator. I've occasionally posted polls and like text updates about the state of the channel and stuff that I'm working on and behind the scenes info, that kind of stuff. I think if you treat it that way, it can work out really well. And so crowdfunding, I suspect, is probably here to stay, whether people like it or not. But I am curious as to your thoughts. You know, the whole sponsored content thing. What are your thoughts on that? Patreon, I mean, is that something that you think it's like begging, or is it really just a tip jar or just another way to support your viewers, or, you know, your content creators? Ad revenues, ads, are we kind of past the point where ads even make sense? I mean, should YouTube try and push more towards that kind of subscription YouTube Red type of model and just get rid of ads on the platform completely? I'm curious as to your thoughts, so just shout them out down in the comments below. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.